Everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at the new jungle items for the preseason, as well as my top 15 jungle tier list. So as always, if you enjoy the content, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out a ton on the channel. Be sure to check out the rest of the content as well. I'm going to be doing a tier list and item overview for each role. And then we also stream every night starting around midnight Eastern Standard Time. I'm happy to talk with you about League or anything else you want to talk about while I'm streaming. And I try to explain as much as I can about what's going on in the game, decisions that I made, and things that I could have done better, things that enemies and allies could have done better. So it's a very friendly, chill community, very cerebral. So come by, check it out. We'd love to have you. And then we do new guides for every patch, for patch notes, tier lists, and then I'm going to be adding a bunch of new champion guides for the season as well on the YouTube channel. So be sure to check all that out. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the items first here, and then we'll get into the jungle adjustments and the tier list. So we'll do the items for maybe 15 minutes or so, and then we'll aim to do the tier list in maybe like 30 minutes. And you can always, if you want to speed it up, if it's too slow for you, you can just, bump it up on YouTube to 1.5 speed, and you can probably still understand what's going on. Okay, so there's a bunch of different champions that can be played in the jungle, but I think that the tanks are actually the best choices right now for the jungle. A lot of people are not playing them. A lot of the all caps videos are not emphasizing them, but they are actually quite strong. So I'm gonna go over the tank items, and then I'll probably go over the assassin items and maybe a couple of the fighter items as they pertain to the jungle. So yes, there are some junglers that will get some other items, but I think these will be the most important to mention. So the first thing is the change to the jungle item themselves. This kind of works like a support item now in that it's very cheap early on and you get a lot of value unlocked as the game unfolds. So you can't upgrade the jungle items anymore to like Skirmisher Saber and Warrior and things like that. You only get the 350. However, after you smite 5 times in the jungle, you basically get a Skirmisher Saber. So you permanently get one of the smites, either the challenging smite, which is the same thing as the old challenging smite, or the slow smite, chilling smite over time. So 5 smites probably going to take you, jungle camps. You start fighting at like 1:30. We'll just say like 6 minutes for easy math, 5 or 6 minutes on the smites, but that saves you 650 gold. That is huge for a lot of junglers because that means that you can get a more meaningful item because the original jungle item, the 650, the skirmisher, all that stuff, it didn't really help you in combat at all other than the smites. It was just buffs to the jungle, right? Just to help you farm the jungle a little more efficiently. And now they have that built into the Ember Knife where you have 12% Omni Vamp against everything in the jungle. So that's magic damage or physical damage. So it helps you sustain very well. You still have the 8 to 18 mana regen per second, which is massive mana regen if you go low. So it's pretty much infinite mana when you're in the jungle. And then you still have the burn damage, the 60 plus 30% of your AP, and then all these other perks. And if you attack once, then that applies it on hit as well. So you have kind of a mix of the old machete with the other thing that used to do the AoE damage. So you just got it all for 350. It's crazy. So it's a very, very good item. It's going to help a lot of junglers snowball very quickly. And the champs that are going to like this the most are going to be the Cinderhulk junglers, I think, because Cinderhulk sucked. It was terrible. You just kind of had to get it on things like Amumu and Sejuani and most of the tanks just because once you get the Skirmisher, you're kind of priced into it for the most part. You could get it later, but the Balmy Cinder was very nice to help you out with your wave clear, and at that point, it's like, I guess I'll go ahead and upgrade it. But it was very, very inefficient. You were only getting like 900 gold and change off of your 1500 gold final upgrade into Cinderhulk. So it was really, really inefficient. It did scale later on in the game, so if you got to like 4 items and had a ton of health, it was actually kind of good there. But it was so bad early. It really held the tanks back. And then the stuff that's going to get hit the hardest in a lot of circumstances are going to be the warrior users. There are still a few good ones like Kha'Zix, Graves that will hit on, but a lot of those warrior users, really power spiked hard off of warriors because warriors was very efficient. It was, I think, like 160% efficient when you completed it. So when you're talking like Amumu was coming in at 70% efficiency when he got Cinderhulk, and Lee Sin was coming in at 160% when he got warrior, that was a massive differential in power in the early and the mid game, and that no longer exists. That's really good. And then I think the AP item was also a lot better. Echoes, Runic Echoes was also pretty good and pretty efficient. I don't remember the exact numbers, but 130% or something efficient. on the Runic Echo, so champions like Eve, champions like Nidalee are potentially going to miss that as well. Other champs that'll like this will be someone like Hecarim, who just people figured out you just shouldn't even upgrade your jungle item most of the time because Cinderhulk was his best option and it was trash, so people figured, no, don't even upgrade it. So he's really going to like it because he already wasn't upgrading his jungle item. So anyways, big buff, massive increase to gold, massive power shift towards junglers that are not going to be oppressed anymore by Cinderhulk and are not going to be artificially inflated in power because of Warrior. Okay, so that's a very big deal. And like pretty much everybody's going to be full health. You know, pretty much when they're going through the jungle, a lot of people, especially tanks that have AoE damage that can Omni Vamp and really get a lot out of that in the early game is going to be nice. And they also changed around Gromp so that Gromp now heals you like Scuttle used to heal you. So you can, if you have to open on blue or you really want to, like in a Moo or something like that, then you can get that extra little bit of healing early on in your pathing just in case you get invaded. So invade junglers are going to be kind of hard up now too because people are going to be topped off by that Gromp. They don't have to go fight for a Scuttle to get the top off. They also in general did nerf, or they buffed the camps to where they move faster, and they gave some of them like extra magic resist, and I think maybe they have less max health. So against like squishy champions that require a lot of kiting to do well, so like Evelynn, Nidalee, Lilia, stuff like that is going to be a lot worse for your, sort of your average users. Maybe your challengers can still make those work, but you're going to be getting hit by the camps a lot more. So that's going to favor tanky champions as well because they were already just face tanking the camps for the most part. So the really squishy stuff that has to kite is going to have a harder time in the jungle overall. Okay. Let's talk about some of these items here. So we'll start with the mythics because I think these are probably the most important ones to discuss, the ones that people would be most interested in. Basically, Sunfire Aegis get it 90% of the time on the vast majority of tanks, unless they nerf it soon. This thing is really, really strong. First of all, it's the most balanced item. It has a lot of health, the 450 health, 30 on the resist, and 15 ability haste. So it's just pretty much good for against any sort of team comp. You got to remember against tanks, you're trying to build your items and adapt in such a way that it's going to be the best given the type of damage you're going to be taking. You don't have to worry about that with Sunfire. It's just always good. And now, over time, whenever you damage champions or epic monsters, that's Dragon or Baron, the Immolate stacks up and can do up to 60% additional damage. 6 stacks. So it lasts for 5 seconds, but it's 6 stacks. So up to, 72 additional damage. And then once you get it up to max stacks, damaging... Oh god, it's not even capped at 1 per second. Taking damage or dealing damage causes you to do this per second. Okay, never mind. I was like, oh my god, a Moo-Moo's like W triggers every 0.25 seconds or every half a second or something, so he's going to stack it ultra fast. No, it's every time they take damage, so it is just 1 per second. So yeah, so after 5 seconds or after 6 seconds, you get it max stacked. And then once it's max stacked, then your auto attacks basically double the damage. So deal the Immolate damage again over time. Now, I don't know if that's the fully stacked Immolate damage. It says the subsequent Immolate is more. I think it is. So its baseline is going to be 30 if you have 2,000 health, in the early to mid game. Maybe 50 damage. Then it's getting increased by 72%. So we'll just call it 80 damage or something like that, then you can double it. So it's going to end up burning people for 160 damage over time. And it's your attacks burn people though. So you do have to auto attack. A Moo-Moo's W isn't going to trigger it on everybody. And I don't think that they can blast each other. But it is over 3 seconds. So anyways, very, very strong champion, really high DPS in long sustained fights. Almost every champion that gets this, either in the jungle or the top lane, has a 60% win rate. This is low-key potentially the most OP item. I think that Harvester is also super OP on mages, but this is one that a lot of people are not talking about. This is way, way more impactful than Duskblade or Eclipse or any of that other garbage that the all caps videos are talking about. So this is the one thing that's really big on tanks. So you want to get that the vast majority of the time. Frostfire Gauntlet, it does allow you to stick to targets a little bit more, but most tanks are going to have pretty good CC and sticking capability, so this is really not good. This is supposed to replace the old Frostfang, or not Frostfang, Iceborne Gauntlet, but it doesn't have the Sheen proc anymore, so it's just not worth it. There might be a few that would get Turbo Chem Tank. Now, this is more heavily weighted towards magic damage, so you got to keep that in mind. That it does have more resist. It has 75 resist, but it does have 100 less health, and it's going to feel really bad against heavy AD teams. So keep that in mind. And then this is kind of like the Righteous Glory, where it still has the baseline Immolate, but you could move towards people and just get a better engage. So like maybe on like a Rammus or something, or like a Skarner, they might like something like this, but it still has a pretty long cooldown at 90 seconds. I wouldn't do it most of the time. I'd get Sunfire Aegis, and it's got Bombies in there, which I think is still about the same amount of damage. They did lower this where it used to be 200% against jungle monsters, I think, so they did nerf that back a little bit. But overall, it's going to be a really good clear item. And then Aegis is okay, but it's not crazy. And this also does have CDR on it, which is something that Cinderhulk really was missing and really needed, and a lot of tank items did not used to have CDR. So having this is fantastic on champs that have really high impact ults like Amumu. So this is going to be a really big godsend for him. Okay, other tank items that have changed that are like useful or not useful. I think Winged Moonplate's really bad. You're paying a ton for that 5% movement speed. They're valuing the movement speed at something like 80 or something on this item, because 150 health is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 gold, and then 5% movement speed. Is 1% movement speed really 80 gold? It used to be like 40. So that feels very bad. It does build into Force of Nature, which I think is pretty trash. We'll talk about that here in a second. And then Dead Man's Plate is okay. It does have more health on it, but it has 40 less armor than it used to. And it does have some movement speed, and I'm pretty sure the Shipwrecker is basically the same thing. It just charges up over time and does more damage. I think the slow might last a little bit longer, but either way, it's basically the same thing, just like worse, like a little bit more health. I don't remember how much health it had before, but maybe 175 health, something like that, at the exchange of 40 armor, which is not worth it. They certainly did not give you an extra 800 gold worth of stats, unless they're counting that move speed once again as 80 gold each. They probably are. They're saying, oh, would you like to pay 80 gold for 1% movement speed? No, I don't want to pay that. That's highway robbery. So anyways, I think it loses a lot of value, but the movement speed is nice on like Nunu primarily, who would want this, but that's just a lot of stats that are not damage and are not tanky. And I think a lot of tanks are going to be able to get on people. A lot of the top tanks are, so I wouldn't want to pay that much for mobility. Phage, this is something that sometimes, maybe a couple of them are going to get. We do have a couple people on the list that are going to get it. But after you deal physical damage to a champion, you heal for a little bit extra. So it doesn't let you stick to them anymore, but you get a little bit of extra healing. It's nice for the laning phase if you're a top laner. For the jungler, it's kind of weak. Tiamat, massive nerf early on this item, so any champion that really wanted Tiamat to help them clear, so like a Warwick, I think Lee Sin sometimes got it, Shaco, AD Shaco got it sometimes, although AP Shaco's been better for a while, I think. And I can't remember a lot of other mainstream champs that wanted Tiamat, but this got nerfed really hard because you don't have the active on it anymore. So attacks do the 60% splash, but you don't have the active burst of damage anymore. So that item's a lot worse. I would just avoid that on most champs. Maybe later on some builds if you want like Ravenous Hydra on like Kayn or something maybe, but I feel like there's going to be better choices most of the time. Probably. Spectre's Cowl I think is pretty much the same thing, and Aegis, we talked about that. You get a little bit of extra ability haste on it, which is cool, and it does build into a few different items that can be strong, so it's decent overall. I think you're overpaying a little bit on the ability haste. 30 armor, 30 magic resist is somewhere in the neighborhood of 1200 gold, a little bit less, maybe 1140 on the gold, and then 10 ability haste I think is 270. So this item is slightly inefficient, so you're probably paying like 150 gold to combine it, which feels bad, but it's okay. It's not terrible. The cheaper items, kind of the cheap items, are okay. I don't see a lot of jungle tanks getting these, although I think they're certainly worth considering at some point in your build, especially Zeke's. I guess I'll start with this. I've got this as a support on Rakan. Like, I've been getting Harvester on Rakan, Dark Harvest, Dark Harvester on Recon Rush, and it's been quite good. It's been very, very strong. And I just went Dark Harvester straight into Kha'Zix after that against some heavy AD matchups, and it was doing 90 extra damage on hit, like whoever your accomplice is. That's a lot of damage. And now it's not just auto attacks, it's any ability hits apply this as well. Now, I think it can only be once per ability. I will have to test that on the PvE. I don't even know if I can test it, but in theory, if you have something like a Cassiopeia or an Azir on your team, that I have, or a Rise, I don't think like dot stuff, because it says ability, it says hits though, so probably not dots. I might have to just Reddit this, but so not like a Rumble Flame Spitter, I don't think. Definitely not like a Malzahar E would apply it, but you know, any kind of turbo mage can apply it, but it also applies just more traditionally to AD carries, if you want to do that. So that is pretty handy. 90 damage on hit, especially if someone has like Gensu's or something, is a lot of damage. I mean, 90 on hit damage is, even without the spell hitting portion of it, 90 on hit magic damage is like 25 each. So that's almost 2,000 gold worth of value you're handing over to your AD carry if you put this on them. So it almost pays for itself literally with just the convergence on hit, if you can immobilize people. So, very, very strong ability and decent suite of stats. Now, yes, the mana is kind of wasted on junglers because you pretty much have infinite mana in the jungle, but it's still pretty good. It's got 20 ability haste, very good once again on a lot of champs with high impact ults. It does have the 30 armor and 300 health, so it's good. It's not going to have the same level of resistances as some of the bigger ticket items, but it could be a decent utility option. Knight's Vow, I think, is pretty trash. I would not get this most of the time on jungle tanks. You're paying a lot for base health regen, which you don't need in the jungle. That's really more of a laning thing, and it has no resistances on it whatsoever. So your worthy ally, you can redirect 15% of the damage they take over to you, so that's kind of handy, I guess, but you wouldn't want to do that most of the time. Abyssal Mass, now this is the big ticket one on a lot of them. They have nerfed it a little bit, and I was questioning, why would you nerf this so much? Before looking at this patch, but after seeing the win rates on some of these tanks in the jungle and top lane, I'm starting to see why. It amplifies the damage by 10% for your entire team on anyone that you immobilize. So that's super good. Has 350 health. I think that's valued at what, like 900 gold or something. Someone said just look at the wiki for the values. I can do that, but I don't want to like go in and out of the game, and I think it's more helpful instead of flipping through the wiki of these items just to kind of hover them and see where they are in the shop and stuff like that. So I'm just ballparking the values, but it's gonna be something like 900-ish gold and then 1800-ish magic resist. So you're probably paying like 2,500 gold or something for the stats. So you're getting this abyssal passive for like 200 gold. So it's a really good bargain. So yeah, that's super good. Obviously, if they have like all AD, you can't do this really reasonably, but if they have any sort of magic threat whatsoever, this is going to be very, very good. Especially, yeah, in a lot of situations, it's going to be really good. Frozen Heart, this is still kind of trash because it has so much mana on it. And the thing is, like, junglers just don't want that much mana. Most tanks in general don't need that much mana. So I was really hoping they would take this down to like a 2,500 gold item and just either remove the mana or just significantly lower it. But this just pretty much got nerfed for the preseason. It reduces the attack speed of nearby enemies by 15%, which is okay. Rock Solid is just really lame. It's like 5 damage reduced per auto attack per 1,000 health that you have. So if you have 3,000 health, it's going to reduce 15 auto attack damage. It's like, okay. I mean, I guess if it checks that after all damage resistance is after all armor, like maybe that's better than I think it is. But overall, it's just pretty weak. I think they took 20 armor off of this and didn't give it anything else. So yeah, you're just not going to get it most of the time. There are better options. Now Randuin's, this is pretty good. It does still have what I think is underpowered Rock Solid passive there, but it's got the 250 health, which is good. I would take the health over the mana any day for a jungler. It's got 10 ability haste, so a little bit less, 80 armor. But now you can slow enemies, and it reduces their attack damage and critical strike, or attack damage by 10%, and reduces their crit by 20%. So it is pretty close range if we walk through and you just kind of see the range on this thing. It's not great, but it's nice if you can manage to get a hold of the AD carry or anyone else up front that's doing a lot of AD. It can be good. So decent situation. So doesn't really like make you immune to crits, or not immune, but like significantly resistant to crits. But it's still decent. So situational, but if you need an extra debuff, it's okay. Thorn Mail is pretty much the same thing. I think they just lowered the cost. They did lower the armor a bit. I believe it had 80 armor. I don't remember the exact stats, but as far as its current valuation, it's 1,200 gold for the armor, and then the health is about 900, so 2,100. And so you're paying about 600 for the passive, which is okay. It's not amazing, but it's all right, because you can get the Thorns thing off of just the Bramble Vest. Bramble Vest is an amazing value, by the way, but you're paying a lot. Yeah, why would you even complete this? You're paying a lot, like, almost literally for nothing. You're paying, like, 500 gold for nothing. Like, this thing right here, it's 700 gold. So you're only paying 100 gold for Grievous Wounds and the bonus strike back damage on this. So it returns damage to the attacker. So you're paying 100 gold for all of that stuff. And for this, like, you get 60% Grievous Wounds. So you're paying an extra 400 or 500 gold to be able to have 60% Grievous Wounds instead of 40%. I mean, I guess that can matter against, like, super healing matchups, but you probably just want to sit on Bramble Vest. Bramble Vest is a huge buff. It used to be 1,000 gold, now it's only 800. This can actually help you clear camps faster, too, like little raptor camps, and if you have to clear up lanes and stuff like that, like push lanes after a gank or something, or hold a lane, then this can be pretty good. So I think Bramble Vest is very good, but I would not upgrade this into Thorn Mail. It just, unless my calculations are off, it looks like you're just paying way too much to upgrade that. Force of Nature is kind of trash, I think, because it's got the move speed, and I don't think that 1% movement speed is worth 80 gold. I mean, maybe I'm just crazy, but they doubled the cost on that as far as I can tell. It just seems really bad. So 350 health, about 900 gold, 1,200, it's going to be ballpark 1,200 gold again for magic resist. And it's a little bit less because magic resist 18 gold instead of 20 gold, so whatever, it's close. So, you're going to be getting like 2,200, 2,100 gold before you look at the movement speed. And so it's like, do I want 5% movement speed and this absorb passive for 900 gold? I don't think so. I don't think so. Taking damage from abilities, not even auto attacks, just abilities, grants you 6 movement speed and 4 magic resist for 5 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. And only one ability can trigger it. So I was going to say, maybe it's like a counter to a Moo or something. Something that puts out, or like Singe, something that puts a lot of like dot damage on you. But it can only count once per ability. So there's not even like any niche cases where you'd want this. I just think it's just trash. I would not get it. Spirit Visage, very good. They did nerf it a little bit. So I think the magic resist used to be 55. But you're still getting like 1,100 gold worth of health, something like that. Yeah, 1,100, 1,200 gold worth of health, and then you're getting 1,200 gold worth of resist, so that's going to be like 2,300 gold, and then 10 ability haste is 270, so you're getting about 2,600 gold, and then the 100 base health regen, not really like super useful in the jungle, but it's something. It's like an extra 150. So you're only really paying like 200 or 300 gold for Spirit Visage for the passive Boundless Vitality, which is 25% of all healing and shielding on you. So now like the big Janna shields, Locket, any of those types of things will actually work on you very well. So I think that's a very, very good bargain. That's a powerful passive. A lot of tanks are going to have some healing built into their kit. And you're not really paying that much for it. You're only paying like 200 gold for it. So that's a good bargain. Dead Man's Plate, talked about earlier, not enamored with this. I think you're just paying way too much for the movement speed, but, maybe on Nunu, like, the movement speed's good enough to where you want to buy it. Warmogs, I think it's almost literally the exact same thing it's always been. It might be 100 more gold. I thought it was 2,900, but 800 gold's going to be like 2,000 gold value. ish, 2,000 ish gold value, and then ability haste going to be 270. So you're looking at like maybe 2,300. Base mana regens another 300. I think I may have underestimated the value of the base mana regen over here. I thought it was 150 for 100%, but I think it's 150 for 50%. So maybe this is even more valuable. Maybe it's only 100 gold for the passive, but the base mana regen is overvalued. But anyways, you know, this is worth like what, it's like 600 gold worth of regen. So on paper, this is almost gold efficient by itself, if you count the base health regen at face value. But once you have 3,000 max health, then you restore 5% health per second when you haven't been damaged. I think that Warmog's Heart might have been buffed a little bit. So very good on champions that just kind of want to go in and out of combat or roam around a little bit, or that scales super well with health. So you can see this as maybe a second or a third item depending on how strong the health scaling is on the champion. There are lots of ratios, like Sunfire itself has the 1% bonus health ratio, and there are some other things that also have similar types of ratios on them. Why is there... It's like a little shard of glass in my chair. I don't know what's up with that. But anyways, situational, maybe good. Sterix, maybe on fighters, dealing health or taking damage grants you a stack. Upon taking damage that would kill you, you get a big shield. So third or fourth item maybe. And then gargoyles. This is pretty good, like later on in the game. It's got like 2,400-ish gold worth of resistances. And then 15 ability haste on it, which is going to be like 400 gold worth of ability haste. So you're looking at about, 2,800 gold-ish for this item. And then you get two actives. So you get the Fortified. Taking damage from champions grants you 3% bonus armor and magic resist for 6 seconds. So you get 1 per champion. And yeah, that can stack up to 15 times, 15%. So if you're short like 400 gold or something, if you just get 20 resists off of this, it's pretty good. So if you have like 100, 100,
Crap. I totally forgot why I'm here.
and you get the 15 in a team fight, then it's pretty close. So I think it's very close to being like super efficient. And then you gain a shield for 100 plus 100% of your bonus, and it decays over 2.5 seconds. So it does decay pretty quickly, but it's still like a really big shield. It doesn't decay as fast as Locket, but if we look here, it's still it's going to decay quite a bit. So it's okay. I think that like later on could be a pretty solid like mixed item after you get a couple of bonus health items. Maybe your Sunfire Aegis plus Spirit Visage. Spirit Visage, by the way, does affect that. I just realized that. So that's a pretty good combo. Yeah, Aegis is burning for what, 40 here? I just want to see how big that is. Alright, let me see. Where's the timer? There we go.
Your team has destroyed a turret. Your turret has been destroyed.
Jeez. It's like half your health bar. Oh my god. Oh, it does decay at a flat, like, it's a flat rate, not a percentage of the shield, too. That's interesting. So there's a flat rate of decay. Because look, there was still like 50% of the shield was left when all of it fell off. Like, watch this shield. I wish I could like slow it down. But like, look, like 50% of it's left. So it's not like going from 100% and decaying at like some percentage per second. It decays at some kind of flat number per second. Look. Off. So there was still like 1,000 shield or something when it fell off. So that's actually really good. That means it scales super well with things like plus healing and shielding. Wow. Okay, that's a combo. So you do want to get like Spirit Visage plus Gargoyles probably with almost every tank at some point. It's probably going to be something like Sunfire Aegis into Gargoyles into Spirit Visage and throw in a Bramble Vest somewhere for good measure. And if you're like mega rich, maybe Warmogs. Or Abyssal. So yeah, I think that combo right there is pretty sick. The new Spirit Visage plus Gargoyle. I never thought of that before. Okay, and then the last, so that's pretty much it for the tank items, and then we'll talk about the specific champs. As far as like assassin-y type of items go, Eclipse has been the go-to on most of these champions. And then we'll just talk about them as is. I think I've already talked about these in the mid lane video, but basically all you need to know is Eclipse, pretty good, has been nerfed substantially. It's only 6% max health now as far as the damage goes, and then 15% movement speed. It was 30% movement speed, and it has been as high as 15% max health. So if you're watching some of these all caps videos from the preseason, this has been nerfed a lot. It's probably the most nerfed item is Eclipse. This is still really good on a lot of assassins. Dustblade is okay. We'll talk about that more. Really, the only person who should be getting this is like Kha'Zix, I think. Out of the jungle, Prowler's Claw is not that great. It's really overrated. I thought it'd be a little bit better than it is. It's not that great. And then Black Cleaver, still super great on Graves, very good on Kane. You know, the usual suspects are still going to like this item. They changed the on hit to add even more damage against targets that are fully shredded, so that's really nice, but everything else is pretty much the same. So still good. I don't think any of the new items are really worthwhile. Sorelda's Grudge might be kind of good on like Graves, maybe, eventually, or Kane, maybe, but I don't think a lot of people are getting that. And fighter items, you'll see some of these. I think that Gore Drinker, and these are like very niche. It really depends on the champion. But I think that Divine Sunder can be very good on Hecarim, Stride Breaker. I thought I saw this on somebody, but I don't remember who it was. Gore Drinker is very good on Kane. Trinity is an option for like Graves or Hecarim, potentially, to be pretty good as far as mythics go. Death's Dance can be super strong if you're against a lot of AD on the enemy team. It's important to note that this only blocks physical damage now, not magic damage, and it only, I guess, delays the physical damage, not magic damage, and it only heals that amount over time as well. You do get 10% of your max health regardless, but it's going to be very ineffective against magic damage dealers. Oh my god, what? How did the red team take my Nexus? Okay, let's go on to the champions. That's fate telling us. Let's go on and do the tier list portion. Okay. Alright, so I think I went over most of these. Massive buffs to junglers overall. Have really high win rates on a lot of these things. And then the jungle item being cheap. Basically put 650 gold in your pocket as a jungler early on, so you don't have to buy Skirmisher Saver. Particularly helps Cinderhulk users, mention that. Camps are harder to kite, so you're going to see a lot of the squishy champs just getting completely blasted in the preseason. Omnivamp does help out a lot, and camps do have a bit more resists, but you also are going to do more damage in general to the camps. And then Gromp also now can heal you inside your own camp, so that can be pretty good for people that clear that quickly to stay healthy, especially people who want to start on blue buff early on. Okay. So let's go through optimal picks. Now, some of these you might see in like other all caps videos, and some of them maybe you don't see as much. But I think that you're pretty much trolling if you don't have a Mumu and Nunu at the top right now. So I've got the win rates over the last however many days since the patch dropped over here, and I sorted them by pick ban influence. This is how often is the champion picked, how often is it banned, and what's its win rate. So it takes all of those into account. And Amumu has a 60% win rate right now with a 5% play rate, which is very respectable. That's 21,000 games of Amumu. It's very, very strong. So what is it about Amumu right now that's making him really good? Well, there are several items that synergize with him very well. First of all, he was kind of weak at clearing the jungle. Well, now they added in, you get the AoE clear early on, and you get the Omnivamp. So that means that you heal off of your tiers a lot in the early game. So he has a great, faster clear. It's going to be safer for him. He really did not want to get Cinderhulk, so that's nice. And yeah, he just clears pretty fast early on. It's going to be harder to invade him, so he's going to be healthier from the 12% Omnivamp, from the Gromp buff, and things like that. So just a much, much friendlier clear. He's going to take Scuttle a lot faster because now all you have to do is just CC the Scuttle, even just for a millisecond, and it knocks off like half of its health because it has a shield for like half of its HP. So now he just blasts through it pretty quickly, because once you get that shield off, it has almost no resistances anymore, so you can just shred it. So the problem before with Scuttle was you had to keep it CC'd while you were putting out your damage in order to get a lot of benefit out of it, but now you just have to tap it with the CC, and then you can damage it at any rate that you want. Because Amumu's only CC just lasts for that little moment while you're like moving over to it with the bandage toss, it's a huge buff for him taking that. So the jungle clear in general early on is going to be very solid. And then this new Sunfire Aegis is just fantastic, you know, for Amumu, because that's really what he's designed to do, is just kind of sit there in combat with his W and just do a bunch of DPS over time. So yes, he likes all of those stats there. The ability haste is fantastic because his ult is super impactful, but also has a long cooldown early on. It's got that 150 second cooldown, so that's really handy for him. And then he can actually get a good damage option too if he wants to with this Demonic Embrace, which I didn't show in the video, but this is a mage, or I didn't show earlier. This is a mage item though, where it's 70 ability power. He has great AP ratios in his kit. 70 ability power, 350 health, and then it burns people for 1.5% of their max health every second for 4 seconds. And you get armor and magic resist for each champion that's affected by this. So 10 to start with, and then 2.5 for each extra one. So you can get up to 20 armor and magic resist if you end up hitting 5 enemies with it. So very, very good item, good DPS option. Abyssal Mask is also fantastic because with his ultimate, if you use your ultimate, you're going to be able to immobilize probably at least 3 people in a lot of team fights, right? And sometimes you might even be able to get all 5 people. So that means your entire team is going to do 10% extra damage to those people. And I don't have his wiki pulled up, but his passive is also whenever you root somebody or CC somebody, then they take an extra 10% true damage from magic sources. And mages are very, very strong right now in general. So when you have something like a Fizz or Victor or Echo or anybody, and you open up a team fight and you have like Abyssal Mask and you ult them all, they're going to take 10% extra true damage, and they're going to take 10% damage from all sources. So you're basically giving like 20% buff to damage, even better than that, to anyone that does magic damage around you. And it buffs you up too. You do 20% more damage for your Aegis, which is also magic damage, and for your Demonic Embrace, which is also magic damage. So he just has all of this crap that like stacks up together that's super strong, and you have percentage health on your W. So he's actually has pretty good game against other tanks just because he has so much max HP shred. So he's great in tank versus tank, but he's also good, you know, at deleting squishies just because he has so many damage amps in his kit. So just fantastic, excellent synergy with all the items. Make sure that you're doing the Sunfire Aegis. Leandri's is available. It is cute, but it does not have health on it anymore. It's just, you don't want it. It's 13% lower win rate than Sunfire Aegis. Like this, the win rates on this is just mind-boggling, just how strong these are. And it's because everyone's playing Assassins too, because that's what all the all caps videos are telling them. And everyone just wants to make the YouTube highlight reel as well, and people are just overlooking, hey, tanks are still really good in the jungle and top. I'm skeptical about bot lane, but their win rates are starting to look better, especially on Leona, so we'll see. But yeah, this Azakana is really good now. The Abyssal Mask is pretty good too, but the Azakana is really kind of where it's at as far as, you know, putting out that big damage. So anyways, Amumu, very good. And then I think you just want to max his E, because that's going to give you your damage resistance early, and that also gives you, I think, the highest DPS output in terms of taking down most of the jungle camps. So that's what you want to max. And then I think a lot of people max W, although Q max is like okay as well. Q does more like upfront burst damage if you get more points in Q. So like most people do E then Q then W. But technically the highest win rate, I believe, is going to be E plus W plus Q. So, very strong champion, great clear, great at team fighting, great overall damage, great versus tanks, just OP right now. So, anyways, super, super strong. Definitely consider playing a Mumu if you're inclined to do so. Okay, the other partner in crime here is Nunu. Now, I've played a lot of Nunu in the past, and I'm a big believer in this champion, and he got a lot of new toys here, so same drill. He's going to like that Sunfire Aegis. Super strong. It's a 60% win rate on him as well. Now, you can, Frostfire Gauntlet does have, like, you know, a good win rate, but I still think you want to be going Sunfire. Now, as far as the second item goes, I mean, this does have a good win rate, but like I said, I'm just really not sold on the Deadman's. I think that Spirit Visage is probably what I would do because he has a lot of healing off of his Q, and now it affects shields, and he gets a pretty big shield off of his ult. And if you do want to go something like Gargoyles as third, which, you know, has a pretty respectable win rate, that could be a pretty gross combo, so I would be more inclined to do that. But yeah, Nunu has, you know, just really good ganks early since you can, you know, tear through the jungle faster, and you don't have to spend any extra money on getting your skirmisher item, which he doesn't need. I mean, it's cool and everything, but he doesn't need that, you know, skirmisher stuff. He was already healthy, already cleared pretty fast. So just being able to jump straight out to bombies is going to allow you to clear faster and get those ganks off. You know, he still ganks extremely well for a tank in the early game with the snowball. It's absolutely brutal. It's extremely difficult to dodge those ganks, and he just brings a lot of CC to the table. You know, he's got his E, the mini snowballs, with the root. He has his ultimate for the slow and the damage, and he even has the blood boil to help out 80 carries or anyone else that likes the movement speed or attack speed early on. So super strong champion. I don't think he's quite as OP as Amumu is, just because that synergy with the new demonic mask, with the new Abyssal Scepter, and his ultimate for the true damage. Like, it's just so much synergy. But he's still pretty good. I mean, a lot of people aren't getting demonic mask as like a second item, but I mean, it could work on him. He does scale. Like, it low-key actually has a good win rate. It's like a 65% win rate second item. So maybe you should be getting demonic mask second. But anyway, so he's pretty good. It's just his CC is a little bit more conditional. You know, he's not going to proc. If he hits them, I guess, with the big snowball, he does proc Abyssal immediately. But otherwise, he's got to, you know, hit him with all of his E's and then wait to get the root and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, super strong. Scales very well with AP. Scales well with HP. Awesome ganks early. Respectable scaling later on. Just fantastic champ overall. Just completely dumpsters stuff like Kane. Right, I mean, let's look at this. Is what everybody's, or Kha'Zix rather. Everybody's always, you know, freaking out about Kha'Zix. He's 36% banned, 19% picked right now in the jungle. All the all caps videos are talking about just how OP he is. But if you click on him, right, and you look at weak against, down here in the jungle, what's he weak against? 44% win rate. So he's overall a 55% win rate champion right now. 44% win rate against Nunu. 46% win rate against Amumu. 42% win rate against Rammus. 47% win rate against Zac. You noticing a theme here? Like, tanks just butcher him most of the time. They just completely light him up. So that's another reason that I have him at the top, is because they're good against the other top champions, especially Amumu. Like, what is Amumu's win rate? I kind of want to know what his win rate is against some of these other tanks, because I feel like with his shred, he should match up fairly well. He's not going to have, like, probably an insane win rate against wish I could see, like, Nunu straight up. Delta, common teammates. He has super high win rates against a lot of things. He crushes assassins more than he crushes tanks, but he has a 60% win rate against. He beats all of the really weak champions, which we'll talk about them in a little bit. But he beats Sejuani, beats up Volibear, 56% win rate against Hecarim, who himself has a 55% win rate. So if he has a 56% win rate against a champion that has a 55% win rate against the field, it's pretty good. Kha'Zix beats him. Yeah, there we go. He does. He has a favorable matchup. Not like insanely favorable, but pretty good. I mean, 55% against Rammus, 53% against Nunu. So he's pretty good against everything. So definitely massacres assassins, but pretty good game against tanks as well. Okay, let's get into Kane here. Now, Kane is someone who got a lot of really good buffs and really good new toys as well. And a lot of people love playing Kane. You definitely want to go red Kane. Blue Kane was like kind of viable, near the end of last season against squishies, but because of like some of these new items, you definitely want to be going red Kane. So the main new item that is going to be good on him is Gore Drinker. So this does 45 attack damage, 400 health, 20% ability haste, 150% health regen. So the health regen's kind of wasted, but the other stats are pretty good. I guess like ballpark, what's that, like 800 on the health, 540 on the ability haste. That's like 1300, and then 45 ability power. I might have to grab my calculator for this one really quick. 45 times 35. Oops. Okay, so 1575, and then what was... So the 400 health is like 1,000 plus 1,000 equals... and then 540 for the ability haste. And then the health, so... I mean, it's pretty much like 100% efficient. It's very close to being 100% efficient. And then you have the active, where you do 110% of your attack damage. So it's almost like the old Tiamat active as far as the damage goes. But you restore 20% of your total attack damage plus 12% of your missing champion for each champion hit. So you can restore up to 60% of your missing health. And that cooldown is affected by ability haste. So not just item haste, but ability haste. So with his build, if you get like Black Cleaver and you get this, you're going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of like 30% ability haste right off the bat. I don't know the exact number, but it's a lot. So that means this thing, you're going to be able to start swinging this thing like once every 10 seconds. So you can do it multiple times in team fights. So it's just super strong. And you gain 1% AD for each 5% missing health that you have. So you can get up to 15% extra damage. So it's a really, really fantastic item. And when you include this with like Conquer and just his natural healing that he has, he's just extremely difficult to kill. He'll just like heal his entire health bar up almost immediately. So even if they do have grievous wounds, which everybody's going to have grievous wounds this day and age, it's so much healing in general that it's just really difficult to deal with him. So and that's one of the main contributors. And then Black Cleaver is still very good. He has decent game against tanks because of this. You can at least help your team out, I believe. I mean, let's see what his what is he weak against? He's still weak against Amumu and Nunu, despite the fact that he's going to get Black Cleaver. But I think it's still a pretty solid item overall, and he's pretty good against most of the other tanks. Like Sejuani's got a positive win rate, and just presumably, everything that's not these champions, he's going to have a positive win rate against in the jungle. So still some pretty good game overall. If they have a lot of AD, you can get Death's Dance, which is pretty decent. Ravenous Hydra, I was just talking about how the item that the Tiamat feels kind of bad, but the fact that it does have the 15% Omni Vamp on it is pretty good. So it's just your typical items you would get on him: Gore Drinker, Black Cleaver, and then you just kind of feel it out from there, just sort of see what you need in the game. But there are a lot of toys that are pretty handy on him, and he clears fast. He has pretty good like CC in team fights with his potential for an AoE knockup on a fairly low cooldown when you get Gore Drinker plus Cleaver. He's kind of able to outplay or access the backline with his ult. So he's overall just a really strong champ. I'm sure everyone's probably familiar with Kane. Just the big new addition is going to be Gore Drinker. And then Hecarim's the other one that I'll mention. Now, Hecarim's kind of a hybrid in the sense that he's tanky, but he also does a lot of damage, and he does gank well early. So there are several different ways you can build him out. I think that this Sunder is something that a lot of people are sleeping on. I don't have the exact number here. I think it does a minimum of 150% of... it's 150% of your AD. So it does whatever's more, 10% of their max health or 150% of their AD. So if it's like a 3,000 health Amumu, it's going to do 300. Right? But if it's, just a squishy AD carry that has 1,000 health or something like that, then it's still going to do 150 damage. So it's 150 damage max. And I believe, it doesn't say the number here, but I believe it restores 40% of the damage. It might be 60% of the damage that you do off of that as health. Why is that good? Well, first of all, just restoring health is good, but also the fact that his W enhances your healing from all sources, I think, or is it, let me see. Hecarim does this. Hecarim is healed for 30% of the damage that enemies take. So, more damage is going to be better on Spirit of the Dread, but if you do want to get something like a Spirit Visage, which is very common on him because of his W, is going to give him a lot of healing, then you're going to get bonus healing off of that. So I think that's probably worth it. It's pretty good. So it does have 5% penetrate. So it doesn't do as much damage as Trinity, but just stat-wise, it does have more AD on it. It has more health, significantly more health, 200 more health, and it does have 10% more ability haste on it. So the stats are just way, way better. Because, why does Hecarim need 35% attack speed? Yeah, he's going to attack some, but most of the time, most of his damage is going to be Qs, right? So, I don't know. You do gain extra movement speed to help you stick to people off of swift strikes, but you're already really fast. You're probably going to stick to them. You know what I mean? So that you do you do some extra damage off of your next attack, does 200% of your base. But if they have a lot of HP, if they have over 2,000 HP, it's probably going to be similar on Divine Sunder. So I don't think you're giving up that much damage, and you're getting a lot of healing, and just the base stats are better. It does have a 2% higher win rate as well. So I would heavily consider trying Divine Sunder out instead of Trinity. They're both really good, but I think Divine Sunder just matches his playstyle better. And then if you're against a bunch of AD, Death's Dance is, of course, going to be OP, just like it is on every melee champion that's against a lot of AD. Ravenous Hydra does come in with a pretty big win rate there as well. So you could think about Ravenous Hydra, but most people are probably going to do either Cleaver or Sterix. Cleaver's kind of weird because some of your damage is magic damage. I would err on the side of getting more damage stuff. I mean, a lot of people are still just getting Cleaver, honestly, because they haven't read the items and they just know that you used to do Trinity Cleaver. These items are all better than Spirit Visage second, so you don't want Spirit second, but Spirit Visage third is pretty good. It has a little bit of lower win rate than the other ones, but it's pretty decent. So, anyways, a lot of different tank options there, but the big thing is that you get really nice DPS and really nice engage with backline access. And that's the thing, is Amumu and Nunu, they can't necessarily get to the backline. If there's a tank or something in the front line, they're going to have to chew through it. But Hecarim can just run right past the tank or just flank and hit them on the backline, delete the ADC on the backline, and then still be pretty tanky for the rest of the fight. So overall, I think he's going to be pretty good. And then Kha'Zix is the last one I'll mention. I almost didn't even have him up in the top, but I know that people would riot if I didn't. I was very tempted to put Sejuani there instead. He does have a good win rate, but he's really, really overrated, especially in lower elo brackets. Yes, if you're a challenger smurfing in silver, yeah, he's going to be really good. But for a silver player playing in silver, if you don't snowball in this champ, he just feels so worthless. He just does virtually nothing for your team if you're not ahead. You can upgrade your W to add some extra slow, which is okay in theory, but he just really doesn't do a lot if you're not one-shotting people. And his matchups into tanks are absolutely horrific. Into Amumu, into Nunu. I don't know what his Hecarim matchup is. He actually does have a positive win rate against Hecarim. So against everybody except for the big tanks, he has a positive matchup. But I don't know. To be fair, a ton of people are not playing the big tanks, but I don't know. And they just nerfed, or they didn't nerf Dustblade, but it's so low on the damage. It's 100 physical damage. Is it really 75? I don't think that's correct. It's 100 damage base and then 30% of your bonus attack damage. Now, yes, if you do get kills, you do get free invisibilities, and that does trigger your unseen threat, and you do get more damage. So, yeah, he can really delete squishies. He's very good. He does get invisibility resets. But with the old Dustblade, you could trigger it to kill one target if you needed to. right? You could just go invisible with your ult multiple times and trigger this like 2 or 3 times on the same target. This one, you have to kill a target. Like, you have to get a kill or an assist in order to get the resets. So yes, you can get 5 of them per fight if you get a penta every fight, and that's great. But if you're trying to take down that, one champion for your first kill and snowball or something like that, then it's not going to be as good. And, and then it's just the usual suspects here. You've got your Ghostblade, your Edge of Night, all that kind of stuff. Sorrel does if you need to cut through tanks. So he is pretty good. Now, Eclipse did have a better win rate, but this has been nerfed again. So this includes some pre-nerf Eclipse games and also has some post-nerf Eclipse games. So keep that in mind that, for all the stuff people were talking about Duskblade being OP on Kha'Zix, his better item has been Eclipse. Statistically by 2%, which is pretty significant. So it's good just because it gave him like the movement speed and the shield to either stick to people or to get out of combat after you get in. So he's pretty good. Curiously enough, Gore Drinker actually has the highest win rate of all of them, but a pretty low sample size. I guess, it just gives you more burst damage. You get 110% of your base attack damage and just allows you to heal. But I think that's kind of weird. Most people aren't getting that. Ghostblade's good, lets you run people down. So yeah, y'all know Kha'Zix, you're familiar with him. He does have pretty nice wave clear against single target, especially. Takes Barons quickly, takes Dragons quickly, can delete isolated targets, but has a really hard time finding something to do in team fights if he can't isolate and kill the backline squishies. Okay, last couple, and then we'll pretty much get out of here. I think Sejuani's kind of making a comeback for the same reasons that a lot of the other tanks are. It's going to be the same drill. You get the Super Sunfire, and I think that she gets Warmogs. I don't know if that puts her at 3,000 normally, but she really wants to get that Warmogs online as fast as possible, and then probably Gargoyle Stoneplate after that. They did buff her a few patches ago. I think they gave her a little bit of her damage back. I think her ult got like 50 more damage or something. So she's really nice if you need like that long range, like high quality engage off of her ultimate, and especially if you have a bunch of other melees on your team that can stack up her E in team fights. That can be pretty handy. So I think she's good. It's just she has really long cooldowns still. Like her little charge is like 20 seconds or something. So she has kind of long cooldowns, and her damage numbers are sort of low compared to some of the other modern day tanks, but she's still going to be pretty solid. Zac is another one that I'll mention here. So I mean, I got crushed by his Zac in the bottom lane. I think that was in a diamond game. We ended up winning the game, but he was actually doing very, very well. But yeah, just Sunfire, Warmogs, and then I think Gargoyles is probably going to be one of the better options after that. But anyways, yeah, good champ, pretty good clear, really nice backline access with his E, so he's very hard to peel. So he's one of the better diver tanks, kind of like Hecarim. He can just get through the front tank line most of the time, make sure that he's getting on the back line and harassing. So pretty good, especially if you're very accurate with the E's. Graves is another one. Now, with Eclipse being nerfed so much, I'd put Graves down a little bit, and his win rate's not as high. You, of course, are going to see a ton of challengers talking about him and how good he is and stuff like that. So if you're a really good Graves and you're able to, stack up your grit and fight against other AD champions, he's good. There are a lot of mages, though. Keep that in mind. His grit gives you 0 magic resist, and a lot of the popular items on Graves do not give him any magic resist. So you're going to be extremely vulnerable to some of these like harvester mages that are going to come out of the middle hitting like a truck, like Fizz, Echo, Victor, stuff like that, and you're going to have potentially a really hard time into things like a Mumu and Nunu as well that are going to do a pretty significant amount of magic damage. He has less than a 40% win rate against a Mumu, 39% against a Mumu, 41% against Nunu. These champions are going to murder you, especially in your gold games or whatever in the jungle. So be very, very careful with Graves. Magic damage is extremely powerful right now, and he is just really not well equipped to handle that. In fact, he's designed to be weak to that. But anyways, that's all I'm going to mention here because I do want to keep it under an hour. The last few, just Rammus, another decent tank, Master Yi, good super scaling champ, but can get snowballed on early. So you got to be careful, but he can be a good tank buster later on. But anyways, that's it. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.